everyone, and welcome to another Getting Started with Canvas screencast. This time I'm going to give you a quick overview of Canvas's rubrics. Rubrics are useful for any assignment that has a specified set of criteria that you want to use to evaluate the quality of students' finished projects. Canvas gives me a rubric tool in assignments that I can use to set up the criteria and a grading scale to match. The rubric tool is attached to each assignment. I get to the rubric tool when I save an assignment or open an existing assignment. At the bottom of the assignment preview, I can select plus Add Rubric. Here is the rubric tool. One of the things I can do from here is view and select an existing rubric. If I have existing rubrics, I select Find a Rubric. Preview the existing rubrics. And if I find one that I want to use, I'll select Use this rubric. Now this rubric is attached to my assignment, and I'll be able to use it in SpeedGrader. And students will also be able to look at the rubric so that they know the criteria that will be used to evaluate their work. I can also create a new rubric. I'll go back to the rubric tool, select plus Add Rubric, and begin by giving my new rubric a title. Then I can add the criteria I'll use to grade the assignment. In the first criteria cell, I click on the pencil icon to edit the criterion. I can add both a simple description like Introduction or a longer description of the criterion that includes what I want to find in the introduction. Then I can add my next criterion by adding plus Add Criterion. My second criterion is Organization. In the Ratings column, I provide information about how well a student must perform to meet the criterion, and the points associated with each level of performance. 2 levels are provided by default, full points and no points. I can assign the number of points I want to associate with this criterion, and then add the number of rating levels I want to use to evaluate the student's performance. In this example, I'll add one additional level by clicking on the line between full points and no points. And then I'll click on the pencil in each cell to edit each level's description. For 5 points, the student has an introduction that gets my attention and has a clear thesis. For 3 points, the student may not grab my attention completely or may only have some of the elements of a clear thesis. For 0 points, the student does not get my attention at all and does not present a clear thesis. I'll make this criterion worth a total of 20 points. And I'll award the student 20 points if they have fully developed the introduction, 12 points if some but not all elements of a fully developed introduction are present, and no points if they do not have an introduction, or if their introduction does not meet the standards that define this criterion. So this is how I develop the rubric one criterion at a time. If I'm using the rubric for grading, then I'll select that option. Generally speaking, in this case, I want the points in the rubric to add up to the points available in the assignment. I can do more with the rubric, But for now, I'll end this introduction by noting that if I want to use a rubric, but I don't want to use it with the scoring breakdown demonstrated earlier, I can also define each criterion and then select I'll write free-form comments when assessing the students. When I do this, I can then assign points for each criterion in a more free-form manner. And when I do my grading, rather than scoring based on the rubric levels of performance, I can write free-form comments and assign a score based on my overall assessment of performance. When I'm finished developing my rubric, I'll select Create Rubric. This rubric is now attached to this assignment. It'll also be available to reuse in other assignments if I'd like to do that. The rubric is now also available to students so they can review the criteria that I'll be using when I'm grading their work. When I attach a rubric to an assignment, I'll have access to that rubric when I'm grading in SpeedGrader. Using this rubric when I grade can really speed up and standardize the grading process. In this screencast, I've given you an overview that you can use to get started using rubrics in Canvas. For more information, here are a couple of links to full sets of guides that are available at Canvas's Help Center.